All right, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you back. Steve Malzberg with you on the Steve Malzberg Show on this Super Tuesday. Here are the latest numbers. First of all, from Virginia, which is too close to call right now. Trump 39%, Rubio 31%, and Ted Cruz at 18%. Now, Fox News and NBC News have both called Georgia for Donald Trump, with the latest we have 54% to Cruz's 22% and Rubio's 15%. So let's bring in two of the top pollsters in the country and say hello to, first of all, John Zogby, and also welcome in Jim McLaughlin. Hello, gentlemen. Jim, of course, partner at McLaughlin and Associates and Republican pollster, and John, of course, CEO of Zogby Analytics and Zogby Polls. Gentlemen, welcome. John, let me start with you. Let's talk about nothing unexpected in the fact that Donald Trump has apparently won Georgia, correct?
No, none whatsoever. He was leading by a vast amount, and no surprise there at all.
And as far, John, as your take on Virginia, correct me if I'm wrong.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah, it's one of the two states that Rubio, I think, had a shot at winning. How important is this for him and for Trump?
Well, it keeps him alive, and what he's hoping to do is stay alive going into Florida. And where he absolutely has to win. I mean, frankly, he really needs to win something somewhere tonight. Looks like he may have a shot at Virginia. For those of you watching the results coming in, realize that the northeast corner of Virginia, where you have Washington, D.C. suburbs, highly educated, upscale, that's Marco Rubio's base, so to speak, in these primaries. And so those are the numbers that come in later in the evening. So he's got a shot here, I think.
What about it, Jim? And welcome aboard, Jim. Let's start with Virginia, then work our way back to Georgia.
Thanks, Steve. And it looks to me like Virginia appears to be up for grabs, which I think is kind of interesting because a lot of folks thought that Trump was going to run away with Virginia. But I agree with John's point, though. At some point, whether you're Ted Cruz or whether you're Marco Rubio, you got to win something. And, not just come in second or come in third in some cases, but I think it's very interesting. I think the other place where you want to look at is possibly in Minnesota, because a lot of times I think what you go by is what the candidates are doing on the day of Super Tuesday today. And obviously, at one point, you had Marco Rubio was up in Minnesota, so I think they may think they have a shot there also.
Okay, and Georgia, I think we'll all agree, was no big deal, not unexpected that it's a win for Trump. And on the other side, with Georgia and Virginia going to Hillary and Vermont going to Sanders, Jim, really no surprise there either.
No, and you know what? It's interesting because the tables have turned. The expression about flipping the switch. Because it's interesting, because it's almost like Hillary Clinton is doing to Sanders what Barack Obama did to Hillary Clinton 4 years ago. In the states where there's a large percentage, in a lot of these Super Tuesday states where they have a large percentage of African-American voters, obviously Hillary Clinton is doing very well, winning those states, going away. But then these other states where you have a lot of white liberals, a lot of white progressives voting, places like Vermont, that's where you see Bernie Sanders doing well.
What about it, John? Agree?
I do agree. The interesting thing, though, about Hillary is that she's not doing well with millennials. That's Bernie Sanders' territory. That's what we have to look out for, because that's what she needs, absolutely, in November. And if millennials, they're not going to vote for Donald Trump, or they're not going to vote for whoever other candidates are in the race. They're either going to vote Democrat or not vote at all. She's going to need them. And right now, she's still not doing well there.
All right, John, the big prize up for grabs with 155 delegates on the Republican side, of course, is Texas. And Jim talked about you need to win a state. I think we all agree with that. And, if Ted Cruz doesn't win Texas, it's going to be very hard for him to justify going on, I think. But what do you see? What are your numbers telling you? What do you expect to happen tonight, John, in Texas?
Wait, that's tightening up in Texas.
What's that?
Texas
Say again?
Tight.
John?
The Texas is tight. Can you hear me?
Yes, it's tight, you said?
Oh, yeah, it's very tight. The last number I saw was 35 Cruz, 32 Trump, and Trump gaining in Texas. Frankly, I don't believe that a win is a win is a win. If Cruz wins by 2 or 3 points, 4 points in Texas, and that's the only showing he makes outside of third place everywhere else. I don't see how he can continue.
What about it, Jim? What do you foresee happening in Texas? And do you agree that if Cruz doesn't win Texas, he'll have trouble moving forward?
Yep, and I agree. John makes a good point there. And I think the other thing you want to look at in Texas is the 20% threshold. If Marco Rubio gets 20% because the proportional allocation of delegates, he'll get some delegates in Texas. So John's right. If it's close between Trump and Cruz there, and then you have Rubio getting some delegates there, he could be declaring victory.
If Trump runs the table, I mean, if he ekes out Virginia and if he should eke out Texas, Minnesota notwithstanding, and maybe Rubio wins that, I don't know. Is that it? I mean, is he just steamrolling the rest of the way and unstoppable going forward, John?
Yes. You have even a bigger day 2 weeks from now, and the only option for temporarily stopping Donald Trump's momentum, and it's a weak option, is everybody else drops out but Rubio in Florida, everybody else drops out but Kasich in Ohio, and then you decide from there who's going to go head-to-head with Trump when you get into Illinois, New York, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, some of the bigger, California, the bigger states. But frankly, I think that's a very weak option. If he runs the table, I don't know how you stop the nomination.
Jim, you agree?
I think both Trump and I think both Cruz and Rubio, they seem to be in this for the long haul. And I think there's no reason why they shouldn't get out. There's two things going on, too. Is one of the dirty little secrets. We talk about all the super PACs and all the money in politics and whatnot. There was very little money spent in these states, in these dozen or so states that we're having primaries and caucuses today on the Republican side. One of the dirty little secrets is Cruz and Marco Rubio's PACs and their campaigns don't have a lot of money right now, but they're showing ability to be able to live off the land. The other thing to watch out for is obviously we talk about Florida, and that's going to be important on March 15th. But I'm not sure if everybody knows, they've started early voting. They've been voting there for the last couple of weeks, and I think that gives Donald Trump an advantage there. The fact that he was ahead, he seemed to be the front runner, even though Rubio seems to have picked up over the last week or so. I think Donald Trump's probably banking some votes in Florida right now during the early voting process.
Right, gentlemen, I want to thank both of you, John Zogby and Jim McLaughlin. Jim, say hello to your brother. Thank you very much to both of you.